Look, as a parent, you absolutely pour your heart, your resources, and just your endless energy into your kids' future. You want to see them succeed, right? Maybe even at one of the nation's most elite universities. But here's the hard truth. If you're operating out of the admissions playbook from 10 or honestly even 5 years ago, you might unintentionally be setting them up for a really heartbreaking rejection. The entire landscape of elite college admissions has completely fractured and rebuilt itself. So today, in this explainer, we're going to dismantle those outdated myths. We are building a concrete roadmap for parents of 9th through 12th graders, and we're focusing entirely on the two things that actually matter now, helping your child build a genuine academic identity and undeniable agency.
Now, for years, the ultimate holy grail was hitting these magical numbers, right? A 4.0 GPA and a 1580 SAT. But are those numbers enough for the Ivy League today? The surprising reality is, no, not anymore. In this modern admissions era, perfect numbers are definitely no longer a guarantee of admission. Think about this. Over 90% of applicants to schools like Harvard and Yale already have the academic chops to succeed there. Those perfect stats, they've basically just become a minimum entry ticket. They get your file onto the desk, but they do absolutely nothing to make you stand out from the pile. Colleges aren't asking, is this student capable anymore? They're asking, out of tens of thousands of capable students, why this specific one? To really wrap your head around why that is, you have to look at the sheer scale of the competition right now. 10 million. 10 million! That is the record-breaking number of Common App applications submitted recently. Students are applying to 15, sometimes 20 schools, which is driving acceptance rates at top-tier universities down below 5%. So when an exhausted admissions officer is staring down the barrel of 10 million applications, a flawless transcript isn't special. It's literally just the baseline. The real battle today is all about strategic interpretation and proving your child's unique impact.
And this brings us to a massive paradigm shift. The old checklist approach, it created the well-rounded student. You know the type, joining 10 random clubs just to fill every slot, protecting a super safe A grade, and blindly chasing prestigious summer camps. Admissions officers actually have a phrase for these students. They call them busy but not excellent. Today, elite universities do not want well-rounded students. They want a well-rounded class made up of spiky students. They want spiky depth in just one or two specific areas. They're looking for academic rigor, a kid who actively embraces the challenge of the absolute hardest courses and takes intellectual risks instead of just playing it safe. But above all the rest, they want measurable impact.
So how do you actually create that spike? Well, it starts with what we call the academic narrative. This basically means aligning every single choice, the classes, extracurriculars, research, essays, even teacher recommendations, into one cohesive story of intellectual pursuit. Let's take a student interested in biology, for example. The outdated approach is getting an A in AP Bio and, joining the science club. But a modern academic narrative, that student takes AP Bio, sure, but then they track the impact of water pollution on aquatic life in a local river over 3 years. Then they take that research to the city council to try and influence local regulations. And later, their college essay reflects on the scientific integrity they learned when their early experiments completely failed. See the difference? That is a narrative that leaves a lasting image.
And the engine that actually drives that entire narrative is agency. Agency is the power to identify a real-world problem and take proactive steps outside of the existing systems to solve it. Joining an existing coding club at school and becoming the vice president, that's fine, but it's passive. It lacks agency. But let's say you notice your grandmother struggling to understand her medication instructions, so you build and distribute a multilingual medication support app to a local senior center. Now that is agency. Colleges want to see that your child is the main character in their own story, not just an extra sitting around waiting for opportunities to be handed to them. Of course, building this kind of identity, it doesn't happen overnight. It's really a 4-year evolution. So let's quickly walk through a grade-by-grade blueprint to see how this actually plays out from 9th to 12th grade.
Starting off in 9th grade, the entire priority is foundation and exploration. Look, the transition to high school rigor is tough for most kids, so the first focus has to establish rock-solid study habits. 9th grade starts that upward academic curve. Extracurricularly, go for width, not depth here. Let them explore 3 to 4 diverse activities just to figure out what genuinely sparks their interest. And crucially, encourage them to absorb knowledge outside the 4 walls of their classroom. Get them listening to podcasts, watching documentaries. Cultivating that habit of pure intellectual curiosity right now is the secret ingredient for a powerful academic narrative later on.
Now, as we shift into 10th grade, the theme totally changes to depth and selectivity. This is the year to test their academic courage. They need to challenge themselves with the absolute hardest honors or AP classes they can reasonably handle, because colleges look deeply at this rigor. It's also time to start pruning that activity list down to 1 or 2 core passions. They should be shifting from being a passive club member who just shows up for the pizza to an active leader taking real initiative. Oh, and this is also a great time to knock out a PSAT to get a baseline for standardized testing.
Okay, 11th grade. This is the crucible. Junior year is all about peak preparation and impact. Your child needs to max out the rigor in subjects directly related to their intended major. Like, if they want to study engineering, avoiding AP Calculus or AP Physics is a massive red flag. This is also the year to launch that high-impact, long-term project, their spike, to truly prove their agency. Logistically, you're going to want to aim to secure their final SAT or ACT scores by the spring, just so senior year isn't completely bogged down. And vitally, they must build deep intellectual relationships with their teachers for future recommendations. You want a teacher who can write vividly about your kid's specific intellectual curiosity, not just write, "Oh, they got an A."
Finally, we hit 12th grade, and this is all about authentic execution. Your child needs a balanced list of reach, match, and safety schools, heavily focused on where they'll actually thrive, not just a flashy brand name. But the critical piece here, the essay. In the age of AI, admissions officers are practically begging for authenticity. They're looking for everyday intellectualism. A beautifully polished AI-generated essay about some massive global topic almost always falls flat now. What actually wins is an 18-year-old's vulnerable, true voice. Maybe it's a reflection on a failure, a quirky personal observation, or a deep dive into some weird niche hobby. And lastly, they need to demonstrate yield awareness, which basically means proving to the college that if they're admitted, they will absolutely, without a doubt, attend.
All right, now I need to speak directly to you, the parents. Your support is so vital, but honestly, parental anxiety can actively destroy a student's chances. So here's a quick list of what you literally must stop doing immediately. Stop writing or over-editing your child's essays. Admissions officers can spot the difference between a 40-year-old's voice and an 18-year-old's from a mile away. Stop hijacking questions during college tours. It just makes your kid look passive. Stop forcing unwanted majors like pre-med or business just for prestige. It completely kills their authentic passion. Stop equating an exhausted, overly busy schedule with excellence. And please stop fearing need-blind financial aid applications. If a school is need-blind, applying for aid will absolutely not hurt your child's chances.
At the end of the day, colleges want a living human who makes a difference, not a polished machine. As parents, you kind of have to step down from the role of the CEO of your child's life. You simply cannot manage a resume into an Ivy League acceptance anymore. Instead, your new role is to be a supportive facilitator. Ask them what they actually care about. Provide the resources for them to explore their curiosities. Let them stumble, let them fail, and let them learn how to fix it themselves. Because that resilience, that is exactly what colleges are desperately looking for.
Look, the admissions game has fundamentally changed, but the ultimate goal remains exactly the same: helping your child grow into a capable, thoughtful adult. A perfect checklist of scores and clubs might briefly open a door, but only your child's unique identity, their agency, and their genuine impact will actually invite them inside. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Are you ready to stop managing a resume and start supporting your child's true story?